Hello and welcome back to Matt Hayes Tottenham blog and to another live stream. I'm going to be going through a few different things today. First of all, I'm going to talk about the game against Real Madrid last night. Of course, we beat them 1-0 in the Audi Cup. I'm also going to be talking about ahead to the game we have tonight. We're playing Bayern Munich in the final of the Audi Cup after they beat Fenerbahce 6-1 yesterday in what was a really convincing performance. I'm also going to be taking your questions and comments on the latest transfer news, and I'm going to be talking about kind of where we are at the moment with our transfer dealings in terms of incomings. I suppose there's not as much confidence at the moment about the signings that we could be making this summer, and also the outgoings of the likes of Danny Rose, Toby Alderweireld, and Christian Eriksen, and kind of where they are at the moment with the club. So before I get started into this video, I'm just going to remind you that I'm doing a giveaway of a free Tottenham jersey when I reach 1,000 subscribers. So as I'm starting this live stream, I'm currently at 977. So I'm hoping to get to 1,000 maybe by the end of tomorrow, so we can give away that free jersey hopefully before the season starts, and just be better to get it out as soon as we possibly can. I'm also running a Facebook group, so for the people watching on the live stream replay, there'll be a link to that group in the description below. So you're going to go down and join that. There's good discussions going on about Tottenham and all the different things happening at the club at the moment. And also I have a fantasy football league. I'll leave the code for that and the link to the website down below as well. If you want it now, it is 8MTEKC. So if you want to go ahead and join that fantasy football league, we have a good 15-20 people in there already. So try to get a big league going for the season ahead. Just a bit of fun. So to start, last night we had what I think was a pretty impressive performance against Real Madrid. Real Madrid weren't at their best. There's no doubt about that. They've kind of struggled in their pre-season so far. They were lucky to get a penalty win against Arsenal, and they also struggled against Atletico Madrid, being beaten by 7-3. So I think they're in a really difficult position at the moment, and they did not look great against us at all. They were sloppy in possession. They were poor defensively and going forward. They were just not the team that you'd expect to see when you're playing against someone like Real Madrid. But I do think even though they were so poor, we showed some really, really good some good qualities, and it was an encouraging performance after the kind of disappointment in Shanghai against Manchester United. I think it was important to get that kind of performance, and it's only pre-season, but we have won the game, and we're through now to the final of the Audi Cup. So Joshua Humphreys here asking thoughts on Poch's comments yesterday. It was a really worrying interview, the press conference that he did after the game. If you didn't see it, he was asked about transfers, and again kind of reiterated that he's not in any way in control of the transfers, or he doesn't even have a say in it. He's not even sure of the players that are going to be leaving the club this summer. He's asked about Danny Rose, and he said at the moment he's in the squad that he has, but he doesn't know if he's going to be there when we kick off against Aston Villa next Saturday. So it's really worrying, the comments that he made. But while I do think a lot of people did put emphasis on those transfer comments and the fact that he said he doesn't have control, I was kind of more interested by the question he answered about Eric Lamela. So one of the first questions he got was from a journalist who said, look, Eric Lamela looked really sharp today. It was an encouraging performance from here. What do you think? And usually Pochettino would be happy hearing comments like that about his players, and you'd expect him to be. But he kind of got a bit frustrated. He was saying to the reporter, that's not a question, you've just given me your opinion kind of thing. He was saying, that is your opinion, so what can I say that will change your mind? And he kind of refused to give his view on how Eric Lamela did in the game. And it was a really it was a really worrying kind of thing, because even in the press conference in Shanghai after the United game, he of course got that question from Alistair Gold about, I think it was Toby Alderweireld, and he completely lost it there, which you can understand when he is getting questions about these players so often, and all he can do is give the same answer over and over again. So you can understand his frustration in that regard. But when it's a question like that about a player who to be honest has struggled since he came into Tottenham, and he hasn't shown too much quality consistently, and for him to have had as good a game as he did, and for Poch to get a comment like that, you'd expect him to be happy about it, and you'd expect him to praise his player in that situation. But he seemed very reluctant to do so, and he was just kind of giving out to the reporter for the question that he asked. So it's very worrying, the comments he's making, and his kind of whole demeanour. He just looks really, really frustrated. And Joshua was saying, how does a manager not have any control over the transfers? So bizarre. I don't know. It's a system that is at a number of clubs. Like, it's usually not the clubs that are in the position we're in, like being in the top 6 in the Champions League and stuff like that. It's usually the smaller clubs where the manager would have a say. Like Pochettino has definitely given Levy the players to go after. He's told him, I want this one of these players in this position, one of these players in this position. And I suppose you'd expect Levy to go out and buy the best players that he can, but it just doesn't seem like he is. And I mean, as I've been saying a lot over the last couple of weeks, I'm really confident, or I suppose at this stage I was really confident that we'd see the Celso and Sessegnon deals go through. But judging by what Pochettino is saying and by how frustrated he is, that kind of suggests to me that maybe there's not as much going on behind the scenes as we might have thought. So I'm definitely starting to get a bit worried at the moment about what signing is going to be coming in, and even because of his comments about Danny Rose, if we will still actually see these players leave. Because it just seemed like we were at that stage now where Rose, Alderweireld and Eriksson would be staying. It's kind of gone past all those rumours, and it doesn't seem to be at a stage where they will be leaving the club. But I'm starting to get really, really worried about this at the moment. And like, I always try to say positive about Tottenham, and I never like to say bad things about Levy. But at the moment, it looks like he is messing up big time. If from what I'm gathering from Pochettino's comments that there isn't that much going on behind the scenes, I think Daniel Levy is making a massive, massive mistake, and he runs the risk of losing Mauricio Pochettino. Because, as he said himself yesterday, he is a manager who, like any manager, he is emotional. It's a project, it's a team that he's invested so much of his time, so much of his effort, and just so much of himself into. Like, you'd imagine for what he's done from the team, what he's given to the team, that Daniel Levy would happily back him and return the favour, I suppose, and giving him the money to build the team. And it's not even like Daniel Levy is doing Pochettino a favour. It's for Daniel Levy. He's the one who's gonna benefit from this as well, because of course he's the chairman of the team. So I'm really concerned about what Pochettino had to say yesterday, and I kind of some of the comments he's made in the past about things like transfers and saying he might leave the club if we win the Champions League. Sometimes it kind of feels like it's kind of a message to Daniel Levy saying, look, I'm not, like, you don't have me, I'm not guaranteed to stay here, you need to give me what I want in order to stay. And it never really felt like there was any legitimacy to what he was saying, that he's willing to leave the club if he doesn't get what he wants. But this is kind of the first time that it does seem like he's being genuine here, and he's absolutely frustrated and he's angry, and he's just not willing to take much more of this from Daniel Levy at the moment. So I am worried about that, but I mean, only time will tell what's going to happen. We've 8 days left now in the window. Only one player has actually come in. We only made one signing that's going to be there for the season. I know we've brought Jack Clark in as well, but he's obviously gone back on loan to Leeds. Ishak saying, any news on Lo Celso? And Joshua saying, so do you reckon Lo Celso will fall through? I'm not saying I reckon it will fall through. I don't think it's as close as we think it might have been, because as I was saying, I was really confident this is a deal we'd see completed this week, and maybe even the Sessegnon one as well. But I at the moment I'm just not sure, because Pochettino seems way too angry and frustrated to be someone who has been told, look, this deal is nearly done, Eriksson signing a new contract, Alderweireld and Rose are staying. It doesn't seem like he's been given the guarantees, or he's been given any sort of confidence from Daniel Levy that he's going to have the squad he wants going into the season ahead. But having said that, he also said last week, and he reiterated it yesterday, that he will be happy with the squad going into the season. And I don't know if that's him saying there will be a few signings made, or if it's him saying at the end of the day he will be given a 25-30 man squad that he has to use. And is he saying that he knows the players at the club and that he trusts the ones that are there? So what he is given, maybe he doesn't have a choice but to be happy with it. I don't know kind of what he's talking about there. But they're definitely very, very worrying comments that he made, and as I said, more so than his comments, his kind of whole demeanour and his attitude, and it's just, even when I was talking about it yesterday, I felt that he would stay at the club for the next 5 years, but this has kind of thrown that into a bit of doubt. And I'll be honest, I am a bit worried now about the window and the season ahead, and maybe Poch's future. I'm not saying I think he's going to leave, but I'm not as confident as I was before this press conference, I suppose. Ishak saying, remember when Levy said he had no pressure to sign players? And that, I was talking about that as well yesterday. It kind of comes back to the transfer policy that is in place at the club, or that I suppose we think is in place at the club. From what we've been told, both Levy and Pochettino don't want to buy players for the sake of it. They want to invest the money in players that they feel will improve the squad, and they're not going to buy a player just because the fans want him, or just kind of to appease the fans and say, oh look, we brought in a player, are you happy now? So he doesn't feel under pressure to sign players for the sake of it. I think he is going to buy players if they can improve the squad, if I suppose he can get the bid that he wants. But the fact that he doesn't feel under pressure to sign players, I don't think that's something that we should be worried about. Joshua Humphrey saying, 2 Europa League clubs are looking at Dybala and Pepe. A Champions League finalist club aren't doing anything. I suppose that is something that we should take and kind of consider, because looking at that Dybala deal, I personally I think if Juventus accepted offers from both United and Tottenham, and from Dybala if he had to choose between Tottenham and United, I do personally think he would lean towards Tottenham because of that. Obviously, we're in the Champions League. We're a team who seem more likely to be going places than Manchester United. We just seem in a better position than them at the moment. But like, Juventus want €100 million for Dybala, and if Levy isn't willing to pay 50 or 60 for Lo Celso, there's no way he's going to pay that for Dybala. So this is another one I think Tottenham have pulled out of the deal, and I don't think Dybala has chosen United over Tottenham. And even if Tottenham hadn't pulled out, it would be more important to look at what deal Juventus want to put through, and they want Romelu Lukaku. So I don't think Dybala has chosen United. I think that's just the only option he's been given at the moment. And as for Nicolas Pepe signing for Arsenal for about £70 million, that is, I mean, I'm not going to lie, it's a massive signing for Arsenal. He's a great player. But I mean, we also have to look at it that those two teams do need to make a lot more improvements to their squad than we do. So I'm not saying it's okay that we're not signing players, but I think it's more important for them to bring in players, and that's why I think they're more willing to spend, to overspend on these players. Like, 70 million for Pepe. Sure, he's a player who did well in the French league, but he's not proven at any level in England or much on the European stage. Ishak saying, do you even think we will sign anyone else? And if not, what would you think about that? I still do think we will sign players. I'm not as confident as I was, but I do think we will sign players because we absolutely have to. So I do think there will be one or two more signings. Hopefully Lo Celso. The Sessegnon deal seems to be all over the place at the moment. I'm not sure if that will happen, but I do think there will be another one or two signings this window. If not, this kind of comes back to the thing about the window last season. Sure, not signing players is frustrating, but in the position that we're in and the reputation we have as a selling club, we do have to realise the importance of keeping hold of the players that we do have. Like last summer, we didn't sign anyone, but we didn't sell anyone, and that's the main thing that I keep talking about. It's keeping hold of that. The spine of that team that Pochettino has is almost as important as bringing in players to add to it. So if we didn't sign any more players, haven't signed in Ndombele, and keeping hold of Alderweireld, Eriksson, Rose, I wouldn't be happy with it. Like, that wouldn't be the ideal window for me, but it wouldn't be the end of the world because, like, ultimately from last season we will have improved our squad, and that's what you want from every window. But we won't have improved as much as we wanted to, or perhaps as much as we needed to push on to that next stage that we want to be at. So if we don't sign any players, I won't be too upset as long as we keep hold of those. But I do feel like we need to, and I think we will. Tarek saying another frustrating window for us. That's just it's true, and hopefully that will change over the next week or so, but only time will tell. Regular Joe saying we are not getting Dybala. We were never really in the running, to be honest. I wouldn't say that we were never really in the running. I think, like, we did place an interest in the player, and he seemed to be willing to move to Tottenham. But as soon as Juventus slapped that €100 million price tag on him, and then they kind of opted to pursue that deal with United, that kind of put us out of it. I do think there was a time there when it was possible, but it was never likely, and it is over now. Ryan saying, what time is the Bayern game on? It's on at 7:30, kicking off. On ITV4 as well, for anyone who wants to watch that. And going back to the game that we saw yesterday, I was surprised really to see that strong 11 coming out in the first half. So aside from Gazzaniga, because Lloris was kind of ill and he missed the last pre-season tour, I think that was a team that we could see playing in the Premier League and the Champions League this season. It was an incredibly strong team, and it was also interesting to see the way he kind of reverted to the 4-2-3-1 formation. Obviously, as I've been saying, that 4-1-2-1-2 against Manchester United really kind of exposed us in the wider areas. So it was interesting to see him go back to the 4-2-3-1, and as well the fact that he had Ndombele and Winks rather than Ndombele and Sissoko, and it worked out really well. The two of them did really well in the middle of the park, and as I said, they were helped by how poor Real Madrid were. And personally, I was so shocked at just how sloppy they were. And I mean, I know Sergio Ramos said after the Atletico Madrid game they weren't taking it seriously, but I wouldn't believe that for a second. It's a game of football. At the end of the day, they're going to go out and try and win it. And it looked like they were trying yesterday, but it just didn't really come to anything. Like Eden Hazard in that first half, he didn't get on the ball much. When he did, he gave it away. Like in possession at the back, they were giving it away so easy. That one stage when Modric tried to pass it back to Keylor Navas, and he put it out for a corner. And even the goal, that ball out to Marcelo, It was a really poor ball, and sure, Marcelo should try and keep that in, but what could he have done with that ball apart from what he ended up doing? Because he wasn't going to be able to touch that slightly to Ramos beside him, and he lobbed it over Ramos and put Kane in on goal, and it was an absolute gift. But I mean, we played well. I was happy with how we played. If it wasn't for Keylor Navas, we could have beaten them 4-5, 6-0. I mean, the chances that we had, that Kane one in the first half, the Ali volley in the second half, and there was, I suppose, a spell before we scored when we had a couple of shots in and around the box and Ndombele's long range effort. So Keylor Navas, definitely the man of the match yesterday, and what was the difference between a slim defeat and embarrassment for Real Madrid? Well, it was a really encouraging game, and the second half, Real Madrid did kind of come back into it a bit more, but we still had those chances, and I was absolutely delighted with the performance. And obviously, it's even better to get that result over the line as well. And I'm looking forward to the game tonight. Bayern Munich obviously beating Fenerbahce 6-1 yesterday. They're going to have a bit of momentum, and ultimately we would have had to have worked harder in our game than they did against Fenerbahce. So I think they're going to be a bit fresher going into tonight's game, and that could have an effect. But again, the result doesn't matter. Sure, we'd like to beat them, win a bit of a pre-season trophy, but I'm more interested in the performance and the selection that Poch goes with tonight. And even as Joshua was saying here, it'll be very interesting to see what Pochettino has to say tonight, and I agree with that completely. Tonight will tell a lot, because he's gone back after tonight to London, and we'll have that pre-season game against Inter Milan, and I suppose from tonight it is looking at the season ahead, and if he does have any work to do with transfers in terms of meeting players and stuff like that, I'm sure he will know about it by now. So it'll be very interesting to see what he has tonight. I'm not too excited to hear it, because I think it might be negative and it might be something that'll just be even more worrying for us, but I'm interested to see what he has to say. And Jimmy Page here saying about Keylor Navas, he made 7 saves, crazy stuff. It was an outstanding performance from him. And I think that just kind of proves the importance of having a goalkeeper in your team who just gets the job done. Like, I know we have Hugo Lloris, but he's been so inconsistent in terms of making mistakes and stuff, and it just shows that a goalkeeper of that quality, and I wouldn't say Lloris is too far behind Navas in terms of quality, but I think it just proves how important it is to have that player there who, when the rest of your team isn't playing well at all and are just messing up whenever they get in possession, really, it's having a keeper like that can make all the difference, and it's such an important position, and I'm glad that we have someone like Hugo Lloris who is not far behind the best in the world. I think he would be the best in the world if he wasn't so error prone, but he has won so many games for us in the past, and it's just a really important position to have, I suppose. TGP saying, I think if we don't sign anyone else in the window, Arsenal will finish above us. I think at the moment we're still safe in that top 4, because as I said, the team that we had last season wasn't weakened in any way, so I do think we will finish in the top 4. And Arsenal, they're making great signings. They're obviously brought in Ceballos on loan. They've got that young Brazilian striker, good prospect for the future. Now they're getting Nicolas Pepe, and it does look like they might get a few more deals over the line for Kieran Tierney and Everton Suarez. But I think defensively they're just too weak at the moment to be considered as legitimate top 4 potential team to be in the top 4. While their attack is, to be perfectly honest, one of the best in the league, with the likes of Aubameyang, Lacazette, bringing in Nicolas Pepe, Ozil on his day. I think they do have a really strong attack, but they're just too leaky at the back. They're too poor. They've no quality back there. I mean, you see the likes of Koscielny now leaving the club this summer. Apparently he's going to Rennes in the French league. I think I don't know if they'll be in contention for the top 4 this season. At the moment, the team that I'd be more concerned about would probably be Manchester United with the signings they're making. Obviously getting rid of Lukaku, a player who just hasn't really been up to scratch since he signed for them, and getting in a player like Dybala, who, while it was a poor season for him last year, he is a top quality player, like one of the best forwards in European football at the moment. So I think United are really strengthening there. And then you look at the other signings they're making, with Aaron Wan-Bissaka, a fantastic right back from last season, Daniel James, a player who's been really good in pre-season, and it looks like Harry Maguire, who I don't think is worth the price tag that they put on him. He's a good addition to the squad, because at the end of the day he's a really good centre back, and with Bailly now out for the next 5 months, it'll be important to get him into the squad. But also with United, those young players that they have coming through who've been so good in pre-season, especially Mason Greenwood, he's been unbelievable for them in pre-season. So I think they're probably the team we have to worry about most, because Chelsea, with that transfer ban and having lost Eden Hazard, I think it'll be a disappointing season for them this year. So I'd be more worried about Manchester United. Jimmy Page saying most managers have a fair amount of input into signings. If you watch the interview, you'll see that he's clearly not happy, and that's true. I mean, I'm sure Poch obviously has some sort to say. It's that like he'll tell Levy what players to go after, but he doesn't seem to have any say in which one is prioritised, I suppose. And you can understand his frustration. And saying here, I think Poch will be gone next season. To be honest, I don't think we can say that yet, because there's still 8 days left in the summer. Like, there is time to get deals done here, and I suppose we still have January as well. But it's definitely worrying, and I'm in a much different mindset about this now than what I was even yesterday before these comments were made, because you can just see, again, not even by his comments, but his demeanour, his body language, his kind of attitude, even the way he walked into the room, he didn't seem like he wanted to be there, because I suppose he knew what was coming. So I'm very worried about that. Morton TV saying Arsenal could finish above Spurs, the fact they've only done Ndombele. I mean, any team could finish above any team. Like, it's the Premier League, anything can happen. But I don't think Arsenal will finish above us this season. I don't think they have the kind of balance in their team in order to push legitimately for the Champions League. I think we're in a better position now to, even though it's only Ndombele we've brought in, I suppose that's the main player that we needed from this summer. So I think we will easily get into the top 4. I hope I don't live to regret my words, but I do think we are comfortably in there for the season ahead, because we have kept that spine in the team together. Jimmy Page saying he should be doing anything to keep Poch at Spurs, and he absolutely should. He's a manager who, I mean, he's worked a miracle at Tottenham. Look at what he came into, and look at where we are now with the insane lack of investment that was there. Like Jimmy as well saying, what happens if we lost in mid-season? We'd be in big trouble. I don't understand why Daniel Levy isn't taking hold of this opportunity, because, as I said, for him, giving Pochettino money to spend in the window and giving him I'm not saying Pochettino needs 100% control over transfers, but give him a say, give him like maybe equal control with you. Like he needs to have the final say on which player is prioritised in each position. I don't for a second think he should be involved in the negotiation side of things. He shouldn't have any say with the money. He shouldn't be negotiating wages or anything like that, but he should be able to say, look, I want 3 players in this window. This player I absolutely need. This player, second priority. This player, look, if there's money left over, bring him in. And it just doesn't seem like he does have that sort of input at the moment. And as you say, Daniel Levy should be doing so much more to make Pochettino feel like the club need him. Because if Daniel Levy is saying, yeah, look, Pochettino, you go away, you deal with the squad, you put out 11 every week, I'll do the rest, it's in a way looking like Daniel Levy is maybe saying, I don't trust Pochettino, I don't want to give him this sort of responsibility, because he might go out and buy a player for 30 million that's just not worth it. So it's really concerning, and he should be doing so much more, but unfortunately he just doesn't seem willing to do that. Tarek saying, not sure we are going to finish in top 4, and Ndombele is big signing, but I'm afraid that is not good enough. I mean, I can understand where the worry is coming from, because I mean, it's just not the window we were expecting or the window that we need, to be honest. But I do think we do have enough quality there. We do have enough strength that we will be in the top 4 this season, because like if you look at that 11 we had last season, even the holding midfield role was probably one of our best in terms of like having Winks and Sissoko in there. They were really consistent and they played well with each other throughout the season. But the fact now that we've brought in an extra bit of depth there that we didn't have, because you see a player like Oliver Skip coming in, playing in there quite a bit last season, and while he is a great player and a brilliant prospect for the future, for a team who are in that top 4 race and I suppose in a Champions League final, that's not the type of player you'd expect to see in a first team there. So it's great that we've brought in that depth there, but I do think our squad is strong enough to get into the top 4 again, because with the squad that we have, we made the top 4 in each of the last 4 seasons. So there's only one other team in the league who's done that, and that's Manchester City. So I think top 4 is going to happen this season. It's Poch who's the biggest and most important at Spurs for me, not the players, and that's true. At the end of the day, no player is bigger than the club, and no player has as much impact on how well the team do than Pochettino, because he's the one who's brought all these players together. He's the one who's got us where we are. If we didn't have Harry Kane, we'd have another striker there, maybe not as good, but we'd have another striker there who'd be scoring goals for us, and we'd be in this position. If we didn't have Christian Eriksen, we'd have another playmaker. If we didn't have Lloris, we'd have another keeper. But at the moment, there's no one that you can identify in the world that, if we didn't have Pochettino, would have gotten us to the place where we are right now. So he is without a doubt bigger than every single player at that club. And the sooner Daniel Levy realises that, the better. There's a comment here. Spurs stink of... Oh, it's only a joke. Jimmy Page saying, what are your predictions for today's game? I don't think we'll win. I just don't think it is a game that we'll win because, as I said, Bayern, having wrapped that game up against Fenerbahce before half time, they just relaxed in that second half. They ended up conceding a goal. They made a lot of changes. So I think they're in a better position going into the game. And with us playing Real Madrid, we had to go to the last minute because, of course, we only beat them by 1 goal. So anything could have happened in that game. I don't know. I doubt we'll see the same starting 11 as what we saw yesterday because, 2 games in 2 days is a very strange thing to do. Obviously, we'd never see that in the real season, but even in pre-season, it's a bit strange that we have those 2 games in 2 days. I think it runs the risk of injuries, and it's just not something that I personally would like to see happen. But yeah, I think we'll see a decent performance, I suppose. Not as intense, not as upbeat, and not as much tempo as we did yesterday. But I think we'll see a decent performance. Ultimately, I'm not sure we'll win. But it's not the end of the world. We want to just get that game time. Jimmy Page saying, I guess he won't be playing a full strength squad. I doubt it. And I wouldn't blame him if he doesn't because he played such a strong team yesterday. I'm sure we'll see a lot more youth players in the first team today, in the starting team, and that'll be alright. Get them some game time against a team as good as Bayern Munich and just give them a bit more experience before we try to get them into the team next season. I saw a question a second ago there about, I think it was Celso. Is Celso signing or what? So as I said at the start of the video, it does still feel like he will be signing this summer, but it's not as... I don't think it's as likely as what I thought it was. It felt like a deal that was just so close to being completed, and it was one that it felt like it could be announced at any moment, but because of Pochettino's comments yesterday and because of his as I said, his demeanour, it just doesn't look like there's as much going on behind the scenes as we thought. It doesn't seem like he's getting the confidence from Daniel Levy or the assurance or guarantee from Daniel Levy that these deals will get over the line. And sure, that may be related to the fact that we've now played the Audi Cup, and well, I know we're playing tonight, but there won't be signings done in time to play. I think that frustration could be because deals haven't gotten over the line quickly enough. Maybe there is a few budding behind the scenes that will be completed over the next few days, but it could be that there's just no deals going on behind the scenes, and it's really, really worrying me that Pochettino he usually tries to deal with these situations behind the scenes. Like, he's never openly, publicly had an argument or made comments about someone within the club, and the fact that he doesn't seem like he's trying to hide it anymore. He seems like he's just, look, it is what it is. I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to try and hide anything, and it's extremely worrying. But I do think Celso is one that will probably get over the line before the end of the window. Not as soon as I'd liked. It could be a deadline day signing. But again, only time will tell. And as for Sessegnon, I think that deal is off at the moment because the clubs just seem so far apart in their valuations of the player, and even the deal that kind of had come close to agreeing with George, Kevin and Kudu and Onuma. And Kudu doesn't want to go, and I think the fact that he is in this pre-season team and that he played yesterday, and to be honest, he was pretty decent when he came on yesterday. He looked sharp. But I think that's a sign that he won't be joining Fulham this summer, and I think that would mean that the Sessegnon deal might actually be off. Jay Spurs saying Sessegnon is not coming. I don't think he is at the moment. I'm pretty sure though that could be related to the fact that Danny Rose has stayed, and maybe Sessegnon was seen as a replacement for Rose, because Rose, as we all know, was left behind from the Asia tour to pursue a move away from the club. But because Rose is staying, I think that might have affected the Sessegnon deal. And I'm sure if we all got the choice of Danny Rose or Ryan Sessegnon, we picked Danny Rose, so maybe this is a good thing. But I'm sure we'll revisit that Sessegnon deal later, because he only has 1 year left in his contract at Fulham, and he has recently turned down a contract extension. So I think next summer, or even in January, we might go for him in January for a bit cheaper, or next summer if we can sign him on a free transfer. And it could work out better for us because he wouldn't get much first team football this season with Danny Rose and Ben Davis there. So I think leaving him with Fulham for another season, letting him get a bit more first team experience and a bit more game time, and maybe trying to let him refine that form that he had in the Championship the season before last, which desperately suffered in the Premier League. It could work out better for us in the long term, I suppose, getting him that extra season at Fulham. And a few people are saying that Celso has to come, and as I said, I think it will, but be honest, at this stage, I just don't know what to think about the transfers, because this window was built up so much, and we were so confident that this was going to be the window, and it just promised so much, and there's now only 8 days left, and it just hasn't lived up to expectation at all. And when you look at all the other teams around us doing all this business, I mean, sure that Chelsea have a transfer ban, obviously the United or City and Liverpool aren't doing much, but United and Arsenal are getting deals done, they're signing players. And even looking outside of the top six, Everton, their transfer window is turning out unbelievable. Like they sold Idrissa Gana Gueye and Ademola Lookman, and then Kurt Zouma went back to Chelsea, and you're thinking, okay, they're a bit weak in certain positions. And then we saw them go out and sign, making bids for Wilfred Zaha and Moise Kean. And personally, I thought, yeah, they're great signings, really going to strengthen their attack, but they need to replace the players that they've lost in Gueye and Zouma. And it didn't look like they would, but somehow now they found this money, and they're in talks to sign Mario Lemina from Southampton and Jean-Philippe Gbamin or something like that from Mainz in Germany. And then they're also in talks for a centre-back. I forget who it is at the moment, but they're going out and they're making amazing signings. And then Wolves, they've brought in Raul Jimenez and Leander Dendoncker, who they had on loan last season. They've now made those deals permanent. They brought in Jesus Vallejo from Real Madrid at centre-back on loan, and they signed Patrick Cutrone from AC Milan. And they're not players that many people would know as quality players, but they're young, exciting prospects for the future who do at the moment have a lot of quality. Like Cutrone was one of AC Milan's best forwards last season. They're only really selling because they are in a difficult position with financial fair play. So I think this season could be the season that we see these teams kind of push up towards the top six, and even I suppose Leicester as well, signing Yuri Tielemans and Jose Perez, and they might lose Harry Maguire, but they've identified Lewis Dunk as a replacement for him. So I think these are teams that could really be pushing towards the top six this summer. And I saw a very interesting thing on the Sky Sports Transfer Talk show they were doing a while ago. Everton, since February 2016, so that's what, 3.5 years, they spent over £400 million on transfers since they were taken over by Farhad Mashiri. £401 million on transfers. Tottenham have spent 250. And I mean, that kind of tells you all you need to know about Tottenham at the moment, I suppose. And while I'm still a bit confident we will get these deals done, the fact that Everton have spent £150 million more than us over the last 3.5 years is quite worrying. Is there still a chance for Dybala? No, that one's over. It looks like he will be joining Manchester United. The news broke late last night that his agent is in London talking to Manchester United. Then shortly after that, we heard that United and Juventus had agreed a deal in principle, a swap deal for Dybala and Lukaku. Dybala trained with Juventus this morning, and he's going to train tomorrow and then have informal talks about his future with Maurizio Sarri after training tomorrow. And it kind of seems like he will just accept that there's no place for him at Juventus and he move on to Manchester United, which is an amazing signing for United. Looking here to see if there's any news in the Sky Sports Transfer Centre. Alan Harry saying, we made the Champions League final and have a new stadium, why can't we attract players? It seems like we're attracting players, but we're not convincing the clubs they're at to sell to us. Giovani Lo Celso absolutely wants to play with Tottenham Hotspur. He wants to play with Mauricio Pochettino. He wants to move to the Premier League, and it's a deal that he wants to get done, but Tottenham just aren't making it appealing enough to Real Betis to agree a deal to see him leave. And Betis even yesterday started complaining about how Daniel Levy was trying to exploit the fact that Betis need to sell, and they're now, not only are they unwilling to sell to Daniel Levy, but they're furious with him. They don't think he's gone about this the right way, and they're thinking he's trying to take advantage of the position they're in. So it's just worrying at the moment. Try to get a few more questions here. Jack Rolls, the Lo Celso replacement, I give up, bring the youth in. And look, that could be a position we end up in this season because of that, the lack of depth we have, I suppose, mainly in that position behind the striker. The injuries that we usually get. It could be a thing where we see players like Jack Rolls, Troy Parrott, Harvey White maybe coming in later this season, and Lo Celso is a deal I absolutely think we need to get over the line. We 100% need it. And as I said, I think it will, but I'm not sure. I'm just not sure what's going to happen anymore, because it just doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like the information we're getting is in any way true. And like some people are saying, this deal will be completed today, and I'm just not sure that it will be. It's just a very worrying thing at the moment. He is paying the wages now, but he must be the worst deal maker. I agree with you about Daniel Levy. Yeah, I mean, Harry Kane now on 200,000 a week. Ericsson apparently offered the same. Alderweireld offered 150,000 a week. He has broken that wage structure, but there's absolutely no point in breaking that wage structure and offering players the same as what the rest of the top six might offer, unless they're going to pay the money to bring the players in. And that's just the truth of it. Like, we brought in Ndombele, sure, that's one deal. I mean, we need another one. We need more. We need maybe a centre back for when Alderweireld goes. We needed a right back this summer. We absolutely needed a right back, and that just hasn't been done. And as I said, there's no point in breaking that wage structure if you're not going to match it on the transfer side of things. And I mean, who knows what's going to happen at this stage? Knowing Levy, it will go down to the last day of the transfer window, and that wouldn't surprise me at all if he did bring in 1, 2 or 3 signings on the last day of the window. It's just what Levy does, and that could be the main point of friction between Levy and Pochettino, because Pochettino wants these deals, as any manager would. I suppose this is the thing you might see at a lot of clubs. The managers want to get the deal done as quickly as possible to have him in for pre-season, but the people doing the negotiations might leave it go on a bit longer, so the team that they're getting him from will need to sell more, and they might get a few million off. But is a few £1 million worth not having Lo Celso integrated into the team before the season starts? Personally, I don't think it is, and that could be the main point of friction at the moment between Mauricio Pochettino and Daniel Levy. And if Levy's just willing to fork out an extra couple of million, that deal might have been done before the 8th of July when Pochettino wanted it done. And I mean, at the moment, Lo Celso on his Instagram, he does seem to think that he is going to be moving away from Betis this summer. He put up a post 2 days ago with one of the fitness coaches or one of the training coaches from Betis saying, "Thank you for everything, teacher." It looks like he's since returned to Argentina, and he's kind of, I don't know if he's met up with his family, if it's a kind of celebration or a going away party or something. But there's some kind of caption on that post. It was like, "Those who always come are the best for you," or something like that. It was a kind of one of those cryptic tweet or posts that you see. So Lo Celso, from his point of view, he does seem to think that he will be getting a move away from the club this summer. Napoli are another team who were interested, but apparently, according to Calcio Mercato, they immediately denied that, and it does seem to have been a kind of ploy from Real Madrid to get a bit more money out of Daniel Levy, which very, very silly move. And I suppose that could ultimately cost us if Daniel Levy doesn't want to give them the money that they want. We have agreed personal terms for Lo Celso. I don't think we have. I'm sure when it does come to it, it won't be a very difficult thing to do. But I don't think we have at this stage. We have to agree a deal with Betis first before we can talk to the player. Although we run the risk of, maybe like Chelsea to get a transfer ban, because you're not allowed to talk to the player unless you get permission from the club, of course. Levy watching Arsenal and still not motivated to spend after Ndombele. If this guy actually thinks one addition for the season mounts a silverware challenge, he needs to go. Poch deserves better. Poch does absolutely deserve better. Like, what he's done for this club, you can't really put it into words how much he's done for this club. If it wasn't for him, I'm sure he'd still be in the Europa League. He'd still be struggling to get into that top 4. And what he's done is nothing short of a miracle, and he completely deserves better than Daniel Levy. I think with the team that we have, we will mount silverware challenges, but we don't have what it takes to do that consistently. We don't have what it takes to go on and win those trophies. And it's just really concerning at the moment. Jay Spurs saying, "Wait, are we going to all sit down and realise Arsenal has spent more than us in the transfer window?" The amount of money a team spends, I don't think is completely relevant. I think it's more how they spend it and where they spend it. Like, you have to look at Manchester United. Since Sir Alex Ferguson left, they've spent £800 million on transfers, but where's that gotten them? It's more how you spend it than where you spend it. And having said that, Arsenal have brought in some good players, but like I keep saying, they need to invest in a defence, and they're not doing that at the moment. So I wouldn't be too worried about them going into the season ahead. I think we've a much better balance in our team, so I think we are better than them going into the season ahead. Delboy saying, I'm sure you've seen Twitter, Matt. If the window shuts with no more signings, it will get toxic at the start of the season. And I know the hashtag backpotch is trending at the moment. It will be bad if no more signings come in before the end of the window. On social media, people are just going to lose it. I don't know how that will transfer into the stadium. I would hope that it doesn't, because I suppose going into that stadium and the first thing you say, the first game of the season, is you're giving out about Levy, you're giving out about the transfers. What kind of message does that send to the players? For them, they might think that we don't have the faith in them to go on and achieve what we want to achieve. So I think, sure, say what you want on social media, give out about Levy, hashtag backpatch, whatever. But I hope, and I don't think it will transfer into the stadium, because I think we'll be in a bad position if we do. And we don't want to be that team that protest games, leaves early. They don't go to games. They chant Levy out and stuff like that. Otherwise, we're going to turn into that team that we've criticised, that we've slagged over the last couple of years, and that is Arsenal. Outside of the stadium, I think we should make our opinions known. We should, as I said, make those comments on social media. But as soon as you cross that threshold into the stadium, you need to 100% back every single player that is out on that pitch and the manager that has been given the job to go out and win a game. So transfers is something that I think should be kept outside of the stadium. And as soon as you go into that stadium, just back the players 100%. Because sure, you can try and make your statement online, but once you get into that stadium, by trying to make that statement, by trying to protest and making those comments, all you're going to do is affect the team in a negative way. And I think that's where Arsenal have fallen down in recent years, because those players don't feel as though the fans believe in them. The fans want other players in. The fans are more concerned about what's going on behind the scenes, about who's in the director's room and who owns the club. So I think for us, as I said, make that statement online. Post those things on Twitter, post back Poch. But for anyone who's watching here, when you do go into the stadium, if you start making those comments, it will only negatively change things. It will not help in any way. So when you get into that stadium, just back the players 100% and do what you have been doing for the last 4 or 5 seasons. Chant their names. Don't be that team who sing for the chairman to resign or for the club to be sold in the stadium, because that's not going to help anyone. Biff saying Arsenal are a bigger club than Spurs because of the recent cup history, but Spurs have been better for 3 to 4 seasons. Now they've bought Pepe to play with Lacazette and Aubameyang. They may finish ahead of us. We have been better for the last 3 or 4 seasons, and we finished ahead of them 3 times. Should have been 4, but of course that season when Leicester won the league, we lost our last 2 games to Southampton and Newcastle. Just threw that out the window. I don't think they're better than us now. I don't think they will finish ahead of us, but they do have a formidable front line. Delboy saying, but we can't pretend the players don't see social media as well. They're being tagged in most of the comments. They will see that, but I'm sure they'll be on the same wavelength as us, where they want players to be brought in, they want transfers to be made, they want Pochettino to be backed, because for the majority of those players in that team, they are where they are now because of Pochettino and because of his team. So I'm sure they'll agree to some extent that transfers should be brought in, but when we get into the stadium and they've been given a job to do for 90 minutes, they need everyone on their side. Whether it's we're upset about transfers or the team, who owns the team, or the tickets prices, or whatever it is, when you're in that stadium, you need to back the players 100%, and you need them to know that you back them. So I don't think a stadium is a place for things like that to be brought up and for protests. I think no matter what the problem is, when you do get into the stadium, back the players completely. If Poch leaves because of Levy and the club's transfer policy, there will be uproar from the fans for sure. Oh, completely. And then I think we will see protests and stuff like that. Without a shadow of a doubt, Levy will be forced out of the club if he allows Pochettino to leave this summer. And uproar, I think, is an understatement. There will be war over that if Levy allows Pochettino to leave, because he's not willing to get 1 or 2 transfers over the line. I don't think he will let it get that far. I don't think he will. I think he'll, as he does with transfer negotiations, he'll let it go to the very last second that he possibly can, and then give the team what they want. He'll get as much out of it as he possibly can, and then he'll deliver in the last second. And I'm just worried, is that enough for Pochettino to still give 100% to this club? And if it's enough to convince him to stay, I suppose. Jimmy Page saying he can't keep overachieving. The results we've had over the past few seasons has boosted the funds. Time to put some back into the squad. The stadium is great, but the stadiums can't score goals. And that's kind of been the general feeling about us over the last 4 years mainly, is that we have been overachieving. But I think that's more based on our transfers rather than the players that we have at the club, because we do have one of the best teams in the league, and I suppose from what last season showed, one of the best teams in Europe. And overachieving, sure, was a thing that first season when Leicester won the league, us finishing 3rd and then 2nd the next season. Maybe that was an overachievement, but when you've done it so consistently for 4 years in a row now, and having gotten to that Champions League final, having 3 domestic cup semi-finals, I think it's gone past the stage now where you can call it overachieving, because it's more of a pattern than a little blip in the pattern. Like we are that team now, and I wouldn't say we're overachieving anymore. Darren saying, how would you feel if we only signed Ndombele this transfer window? So as I was saying, Ndombele is a fantastic signing, and if the squad that we have now stays as it is for the season ahead, it would be a decent window, because we brought in that main player that we needed, but we've also kept a hold of the players that have gotten us to the stage where we are. With Christian Eriksen wanting to leave, we've kept a hold of him. Alderweireld with that release clause, he's still there. And Danny Rose, who apparently was in Turin forcing a move through to Juventus, he's still at the club now. So I wouldn't be happy with it, but I wouldn't be unhappy with it. I think it would be a decent average window if he brought in one player and kept the squad that we have. Dan's discussion saying we need to win trophies in order to become a club with the same draw as Man United, etc. for players, and to have similar name recognition all over the world, I feel. And that's what it is, it's trophies. But the only way you get trophies is by attracting those players and bringing them in. So it's a bit of a paradox, keeps going round. You get trophies by signing players, but you attract players by winning trophies. So what you need to do is you need to find that middle ground where you're signing decent players. You don't want to sign world-class players because it's just not realistic to attract them to the club at the moment. You need to sign those players who can push you onto those trophies but aren't the ultimate goal that you see your team being. So you're right that we do need to win trophies to have that attraction that United have, but it's a bit more difficult than that, I would say. Biff saying, if Poch leaves after Levy's lack of desire, no top managers will join Spurs under Levy. They will recognise that even after reaching the Champions League final, Levy still won't splash the cash. And that is a really good point, and it's not something I kind of considered before. If managers looking on at this who see what Pochettino has achieved at the club and the fact that he still hasn't been backed, why would they want to join Tottenham? And I think that would affect top managers, like, you know, the proven winners. Like if someone like Carlo Ancelotti was looking to come back to the Premier League in the future, he wouldn't choose Tottenham. But I think the manager that we should be looking for when Pochettino leaves, if it's soon, again I don't think it will be, but if it is, we should be looking more at the likes of Nuno Espirito Santo or Eddie Howe, who have a similar philosophy to Pochettino, that they're going to take what they have and they're going to build on it. They don't want to come into a team that's ready to win trophies. They don't want to just spend hundreds of millions of pounds and win whatever they can. We should bring in a manager, as Jay Spurs says, Nuno, who can start somewhere and build off there rather than wanting to come into a team that is already ready to win. Delboy saying, I'm not sure what you think, Matt, but I think Spurs are ready to be bought by different owners now, willing to spend big. After building the new stadium, the club is at its highest value for Levy to sell. I think for Levy, as you say, if he's going to sell, now would probably be the best time before he's forced to make that massive investment into the team. Now would probably be the best time for him to sell, but he just won't. There's too much money in this for him. It's just not going to happen, unfortunately. But I think if new owners came in soon for us, I don't think they will, but it could be absolutely massive for us. Like, new owners come in and they give a massive injection of cash. As I've said, since Farhad Mashiri took over Everton in February of 2016, they've spent £400 million, and that injection of money hasn't done much for them. But they were a team who, for 1 or 2 seasons there, they were, I suppose, in and around the relegation zone until the last 10 or 11 games, and now they're looking at pushing in for Europa League next season, which is where they should be, but that's what it took for them to get there. And a new owner could be the making of us, but I don't think it will happen. If Poch leaves and if we go bad, will we have half a stadium? I don't think we're at that stage where the fans will boycott games, or they will they'll just fail to turn up. I think that stadium that we have, and so is what the team has achieved. Sure, Pochettino has had a big part in that, but the players have also given their all over the last few years. So if Poch goes, I think we will still get the numbers at the stadium, but it might just be a bit of a hostile environment, and there might be those chants and those signs and the banners and the planes flying overhead for Levy to leave. Luke Cage saying, we need new blood, even if it's just to keep established first team players on their toes. Players who are not challenged become complacent, and that 100% is the problem of last season summed up. Players who know that, and I suppose the players we can kind of look at, maybe Dele Alli, especially because of the lack of consistency he showed. Players who know that no matter what they do on the pitch, they're the best option for the next game. They're going to start the next game. They get complacent, and it mightn't be a conscious thing, but they do. Their performances start to drop, and when you add to the kind of small squad we had last year, you add the injuries that we had. Those players who are playing know that they're the only ones who can play, and they're going to subconsciously, their performances are going to drop. They're not going to give everything they have, and bringing in players, new blood, even if it's just to keep established first team players on their toes, as Luke says, is what we need from this window. Even if because look, we'd love to buy first team players, we'd love to improve our squad, but at the moment there's no position apart from right back, which the club aren't looking into. Again, I don't know why. Aside from that, there's no position where you can say this 100% can be improved. What we need to add is depth rather than improving the quality that we have there at the moment. If Zidane has a poor run at Madrid, he will get the sack, and I think Madrid will go for Poch at all costs. That could happen, and with the stage we're at now, Pochettino might be tempted by that. Jimmy saying, do you think he'll end up heading to Real Madrid? If Madrid keep up their poor form, and the thing about Zidane being sacked, Poch will be their first choice. And I'm sure Real Madrid will be keeping an eye on this situation with Pochettino at the moment. And I'm sure they're not the only club. I'm sure the biggest clubs in Europe will be watching this and looking at what's going on at Tottenham and with Pochettino now. And unfortunately, it does feel like at this moment, Pochettino may be tempted by something like that. And I know he's a very loyal manager, so regardless of this, he might stay at Tottenham and he might turn those approaches down again. But I'm sure he realises there's only so many times that he can say no to Real Madrid before they just give up on him. And it seems like a dream he has, a team he wants to manage. So maybe that is something that could tempt him in the future. Bradley saying, Matt, after watching the manager's post-press conference yesterday, I think he's had enough. He knows he's not getting back to the transfer window and he will leave at the end of the season. I don't think he'll leave at the end of the season, but the rest of that is so true. He's so frustrated. He seems like he's just sick of it. He doesn't know what more he can do to get the backing from Levy, and it just seems like he's just sick of it. I don't think he's going to leave at the end of the season, but Daniel Levy, now more so than ever, absolutely 100% needs to put money into this club and give Pochettino the squad that he wants. Josh was saying, Matt, so you wouldn't play Lo Celso if he joined? I would play Lo Celso, but I wouldn't see him as a player who is an improvement on anyone we already have in that position, because of how much we're playing and the regularity of our games. Rotation is going to be absolutely crucial, and they're going to have injuries. Maybe then he'll become a key player, but I don't think there's anyone in that in that area who will 100% of the time be the first name on the team sheet. There's going to be so much rotation. I don't think there is anyone who will be a starting player there at all. 13th Monkey saying Kroenke is way better than Levy and Lewis. I don't know if I'd agree with that. I mean, I don't know enough about Kroenke to say whether he is or he isn't, but judging from what Arsenal fans are saying, he seems to be a whole lot worse than Levy, and I suppose you only have to look at where the clubs are at the moment. Tottenham seem to be going forward, Arsenal are falling. Maybe that's something you have to look at. Jimmy Page saying, so disappointing, I really hope it's just a scare tactic towards Levy to get more control and possibly a pay rise. And that's what I said. These comments that he's made in the past seems to be something like that. He's just trying to scare Levy. He's trying to send him a message saying, look, I'm not here forever. I could leave at any moment. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to give me. Hopefully it is, but it kind of feels like it is, and it feels like these are genuine comments and it's genuine frustration on his part. And maybe his position at the club isn't as strong as what we thought it was. Poch is gone last season. Or Poch is just fed up with the same media questions. Oh, well, yeah, he is. Without a doubt, he's fed up with the same questions over and over. But those questions are coming in because he's getting angry about them, because they can see he's upset about what Levy is doing. And these questions that are being asked, is Lo Celso joining? Is Alderweireld staying? Is Ericsson signing a new contract? What's happening with Rose? Those are all things that can be solved right now by Daniel Levy. But he's just trying too hard to get every single penny he can get out of it. And these questions are coming in because of Daniel Levy. And Pochettino knows that. And Levy can fix all these problems for Pochettino right now, but he just doesn't seem willing to. Delboy saying, and the worst thing for Levy is he has no excuses now to spend for the rest of the window, because he's publicly said we will spend and invest after the AIA deal. See, he did say that, but as he said, he doesn't feel under pressure to sign players, and he will only buy players who will improve the team. And I suppose that kind of leaves it open in both ways. That first of all, he can, it has fans sort of intrigued, it has them confident, and it's encouraging that there will be players signed. But when he says we will only sign players if they improve the team, while that is, as I said, a good transfer strategy from someone like Poch, maybe coming from Levy, that's his way of leaving the door open for an excuse if no signings are made. I just don't know anymore. Dilo Cast saying, Spurs for a period of time were going up while Arsenal were going down, but Arsenal are starting to go up and Spurs are in a state and going down. I wouldn't agree with that at all. Arsenal aren't going back up. They're trying to stop falling, and I said this with the signings they're making. They're trying to stop their fall and get back into a position where they can build from now. Whereas Tottenham we're still growing. We just made a Champions League final last year. You can't possibly say that we're in a state and are going down. We're just not progressing to the next level as quickly as we thought we would. Jimmy Page saying, so any good news? This is depressing. I suppose you can kind of look at the fact that Alderweireld, Ericsson and Rose do look to be staying. That's definitely good news, because they're very, very key parts to our team. They're fantastic players, the ones that we thought might be leaving, but it looks like they're staying. And you have to look at that as a good thing. I mean, Danny Rose is a player who, having played in our system for so long and having been so influential for us in that left back role, I think him staying and is a massive thing for us. It's not a statement from the club, and I don't want anyone to say, oh, he's like a new signing, so we thought he was leaving. He's not. He's a player who's staying, and I think that is big, because he seemed so likely to be leaving, maybe Juventus or PSG. It's good that he's staying. And with the likes of Alderweireld and Ericsson, perhaps signing new contracts, but definitely staying for the season ahead, I think that's big, because if it was a choice between someone like Christian Eriksen, who we know can do it for us, or a player who we'd have to invest in who might not do it, at the end of the day, you kind of have to pick the player who's already there, because you know he can do it for you, and he's kind of more reliable, and it's a less risky sort of investment to make, I suppose. Bradley saying, Ndombele is a great signing, but it's not enough to push forward. If we don't make quality signings this window, we could struggle to make top 4. Dilo Casting, Arsenal are steadying the ship, but Spurs are in danger of losing Poch, which is the main man, because Levy is refusing to give a budget. Biff saying, Danny Mills said that rubbish about Arsenal buying Danny Rose. That is nonsense. Rose could do with Sol Campbell because he can be disruptive. However, Rose is not that brave. I don't for a second see Danny Rose going to Arsenal. And I forget now who it was who said it a second ago, but apparently Arsenal are interested in Danny Rose. I wouldn't believe that for a second. If they're going to spend 25 million on a left back, it'll be for Kieran Tierney. They're not going to come in for Danny Rose, and I don't think Tottenham would sell to Arsenal. And as you say, I don't think Danny Rose will go to him. I don't think he could be a Sol Campbell. I don't think he would go that far. But I don't think that's a move that's going to happen this summer at all. So as I said, I'm going to be doing a giveaway when I get to 1,000 subscribers. When I started this, I was at, I think, 977. So if you want to share my videos and stuff like that, we try to get to 1,000. I'm hoping to get there before the end of tomorrow. I might be a bit optimistic, but I mean, if we get there, we do. If we don't, we don't. I'm hoping to give away the jersey before the start of the season. I'm also running a Facebook group. I'll leave a link in the description to that after I publish this video. And I'm also doing a fantasy football league this season. It's for Tottenham fans, so the code for that I'll leave in the description as well. I'll just put it in the chat now as well. It's 8MTEKC, so any Spurs fans who wants to join that, go ahead and do that. That's all I have time for in this stream today. If you want more live streams like this and you haven't already subscribed, I do these quite often. I'm going to be doing them for the rest of the transfer window, and hopefully I can do them a bit when the season starts, sort of match reviews. I can get your opinions on board rather than just having me talk to you in a video. So like this video if you enjoyed the stream. Thanks for watching.